Hello. I am the Linux Mitch. Today I'm going to do the third video in a trilogy, in a three-part series of Linux Mint. In the first part, I showed how to download and install Rufus and Linux Mint on a USB thumb drive. In the second part, I showed how to install Linux Mint and how to update it. And in this third part, I'm going to show some of the changes I like to make after I've installed Linux Mint. Now, the only thing is that this third part is going to be extra long, so I might do it in two parts. So it might end up being a 4-part series. And then today, before I did this video, I made a video on how to boot into a USB thumb drive. So actually, it might end up being a 5-part series. But anyways, so I previously did a video where I installed Linux Mint and I updated it. Now I'm going to show some of the changes I like to make. So let's get to it. So one of the first things I want to do after installing Linux Mint is to turn on the firewall. And of course, that's after you've updated it. So after you've installed it, you definitely have to update it and reboot it. Once all that's done, then I'd like to turn on the firewall. So let's go into System Settings. Let's make that large screen. Scan down to the bottom. And let's click on Firewall. I'm going to ask for my password. I'm going to put my password in. And this is the firewall. Now, this firewall is installed in most Linux distributions. Not in all, but in most. And the thing is that it's installed by default off. I don't know why. If I was a developer, I would have it installed to be on. And if someone wants to turn it off, they can turn it off. But anyways, in most of the Linux distributions where it is installed, it's off. So I'm going to turn it on. I'm going to click on this, toggle the switch right here. And now it's on. And that's all you have to do. I'm going to shut it. Now, while we're in here, let's do a few other things. I'm going to go into Powermanager, and the Powermanager is set for it to power down after it's been inactive. And I don't like my machine powering down, so I'm going to turn it off. I'm going to say never, and I'm going to say never. Now, of course, this is all a matter of preference, so you don't have to make these changes. And in fact, all the changes in this video, you don't have to make any of them except turning on your firewall. So I would say after installation, number 1, you have to update the system, and number 2, you should turn on your firewall. Other than that, Linux Mint is fantastic. It works right out of the box. It has all the software you need, and then some. And then if there is anything that's not installed, you can go into the Software Center and install it. So another thing I like to do is go into Screensaver. The Screensaver by default is on. I don't like that. So I'm going to say never, and I'm going to turn these switches off. Another thing I'm going to do is the clock. I don't like the way the clock is set. So I'm going to go into Settings. I'm going to turn off this 24-hour clock because I don't like it. And I'm going to display the whole date. So turning this on displays the full date. And I'm going to shut that. So you can see now it's Saturday, February 18th at 2:40 p.m. Another thing I'm going to do is, let's just shut that for now. I'm going to go into Panel Settings. I'm going to right-click on the panel. I'm going to go into Applets. And I'm going to download. Just refresh this is refreshing the cache and downloading any applets or updating any applets that need to be either downloaded or updated. Then I'm going to click on this weather app. Oops, I'm going to go into Manage. I'm going to click on the weather app, and I'm going to add it to the panel. So that's adding the weather app, and I have to say that, in my opinion, Linux Mint has the best weather app in all of Linux. And as a matter of fact, some distributions don't even offer a weather app. So now I'm going to right-click the weather app, and I'm going to configure it. And I'm really only going to make two changes here. Number one, I'm going to turn on the minute forecast, toggle that on. And I'm going to change this 48 to 26. Because I don't need to see 26. I don't need to see more than 26 hours ahead of time. And I'm going to close it. Now we have it's 1 degree Celsius. You have the whole forecast here. It shows you sunrise was at 7 a.m. this morning. Sunset is at 5:51 p.m. The winds are coming from the west at 31.5 kilometers per hour. It's 1 degree. It feels like -5. And it shows today, tomorrow, and Monday. And then you can click on this button and it goes up to the hourly forecast. And you can see I have 26 hours of forecast here. So that's the weather app. Now another thing I like to do is I like the number keys on the side of my keyboard to be turned on when I get to the login window and to be turned on automatically when I'm in my system. So to do that, we're going to go here. We're going to click on system settings again. We're going to scroll down to the bottom and I'm going to click on login window. It's going to ask for my password. I'm going to go in. I'm going to make this full screen, even though you don't have to. I'm going to go to settings, and here, this is to activate the num lock on the login window. So you see here, these are the, you see here, these are the settings for the login window. You just toggle this on. Oh, but wait a minute, it won't toggle on. So what you want to do is, let's just leave that open. I'm going to go to your software center. Let's just make that full screen. In the search window, you're going to type in, or search bar, you're going to type in IMWheel. Oops, that's the wrong one. You're going to go to the search bar, and you're going to type in num lock X. There it is. So we're going to install it. Click it on. Click on the install button. Put in your password. And it's installing. Gonna close the window. Now let's see if it goes on. Okay. Let's close out of there. Let's go back into the login window. Let's make it full screen. Let's go back to settings and let's toggle it on. And there it goes, it's toggled on. So now when you get to the login screen, your user login screen, your number keys on the side keyboard are going to be turned on and they're going to stay on. Now, if your system is encrypted, when you're booting up and you boot up to the encryption part where it asks for the password to decrypt it, the number keys won't be turned on. But once you've decrypted it, so in that case, you'll have to use the number keys on the top of your keyboard. But once it's been decrypted and it gets to the login screen where your user is, then the number lock will be turned on and the numbers on the side of your keyboard will be on. So anyways, that's on. So I'm just going to show you a few things in here. We have Firefox here. Can close that. This is our file manager. These are all the folders. You can make more folders or delete folders. This is your terminal. In the terminal, you can right-click and go to Preferences. You can go to Colors. You can change the colors. Here's the text. You can do custom font. You can make it a little larger or change the font style. Let's make it larger and close. So there it is. That's your terminal. Now, once we're in here, when you're installing Linux Mint, it doesn't give you, on the installation part of it, it doesn't give you the opportunity to type in a root password, which is, the root password is for administration rights. Now, Most modern Linux distributions do, but Linux Mint doesn't, and it has something to do with Debian, I think. So anyways, you're going to type in a root password. Now, the root password can be the same as your user password, or it can be a different password. That's up to you. So you're going to type in your sudo password first. So, oops, let's take off my caps. My caps are sudo password without the O and without the R. So it's passwd. Root. Now I'm going to hit enter, and it's going to ask me for my sudo password, which is your user password. So my user password is this. Now it's going to ask me for a new password, and it really shouldn't say new password. It should say root password. They should change that. So I'm putting in my root password. I'm just going to, make it that. And it's asking me to retype it. And it's been updated successfully. So now I have a root password. Let's clear the screen and let's log into root. SU takes you into root. It's going to ask me for my root password. And now I'm in root with administrative privileges. So let's get it there. I'm going to exit it and back in my user. And let's just close the screen. We're closing the terminal. Now, the package manager, let's go back up there. This is the software center. And it's very beautiful. And you can click on the different types of software. And they have some featured ones down here. Or you can do a search. Now, let's do a search for Brave browser. Brave browser is a web browser. Brave. Now, this is the web browser here. It's telling you it's come from FlatHub. So in this software center, they're going to give you two types of software. Some software is going to come directly from the Linux Mint software repository, and some of it's going to come from FlatHub. And there's going to be some software that comes from both. So for instance, we type in, let's type in Firefox. So for instance, this Firefox comes directly from the Linux Mint Software Center, and you can see because it has the LM right here. Okay, and this one is the one that's installed by default. So you can see this green check mark here shows that it's installed. But they have another Firefox ESR. This is here. This also comes from the Linux Mint repository, but it's not installed because there's no green mark here. No green check mark on the corner. And then there's this Firefox, which is the same as this Firefox here. But this one's coming from FlatHub, and you can see that right here it's coming from FlatHub. And even it shows this package is Flatpak. And it's coming from FlatHub. And this package is a system package. So this one is installed, this one's not, and this one is not, and it comes from FlatHub. So that is that. That is the software center. Now there is another software center in Linux Mint, and it's called Synaptic Package. And it's actually a Debian package manager that's very old. It's been around for a long time, and it's also fantastic. So let's go into it. Now it's somewhere in the menu here, but I don't remember exactly where they have it. So I'm just going to click on the search, SYN, and there it is. Synaptic Package Manager. It's going to ask for the password, and you can use this to install packages and also remove and delete applications. So for instance, you could go into the search bar, search for Firefox. And let's just bring this down. Oops. So here's Firefox. And because it's green, the box is green, that means it's installed. These white boxes, these packages with white boxes mean they're not installed. and you can click it on. This one we could click on and uninstall it. Right? Mark for reinstallation, mark for removal, mark for complete removal. Now, complete removal just means it's going to take out all the configuration files and not leave any evidence that it was there. And let's do a search for something else. Do a search for iMwheel. There it is, and there's iMwheel. And let's install it. Now, iMwheel is a software program. It's really a configuration file software that's used to make the scroll speed on your mouse better. Now, for some reason in Linux, when you go into the settings, there are settings to make the mouse pointer look different shape, different color, to make it work faster. The mouse pointer, that is, to make it work faster. But there's no settings in Linux to make the mouse wheel, the scroll speed, slow down or speed up. And by default, in Linux, the scroll speed is kind of slow on the mouse, especially when you're on websites. So iMwheel is a program that you can download and make your scroll speed work faster, but it doesn't work out of the box. You have to have a configuration file. What can I say? So iMwheel is just a good example. Since we have it up here, let's use the Synaptic Package Manager to install it. So I'm going to click on this little box, mark for installation. And I'm going to apply it. And I'm going to apply it here. To be installed. iMwheel. I'm going to apply it. And it's downloading and installing iMwheel. Now, iMwheel isn't going to work out of the box, no matter how you install it, whether you install it here or you install it in the terminal. And that's another thing, is that you can install things in the terminal. You don't have to use the Synaptic Package Manager or the Linux Mint software repository. You can go into the terminal and download and remove software as well. So it's closed. It's finished. Let's close this. Let's close this. And now you see it's green. That means it's installed. Now, to make iMwheel work, you're going to need a configuration file. So I don't remember how to type it out or what it is. So I'm going to download it from my GitLab repository. So I'm going to do Git. Now, if Git is not installed, and I don't think it is, you're going to have to go into the Linux Mint software repository, and you're going to have to install Git, because I already made some changes in here. I tried to undo all my changes to make it appear as its default. So you're going to type in here Git, and there it is there. Now, I already have it installed, and that's because, like I said, I tried to make this Linux Mint go back to default, to the way it was. So I took out most of the changes that I made to it and uninstalled most of the things I installed, but I forgot to uninstall Git. So Git doesn't come installed out of the box, so you're going to want to install it. You're going to click this on. Now, I already have it installed, and you'll just install it. And of course, you can install it in the terminal too. So, I mean, the way you would install something in a terminal is you would do sudo apt install Git. Hit enter, put your password in, and install it. Or you could type in Firefox. Oops. If Firefox wasn't installed, you could type that in. Or, like we installed iMwheel before out of the Synaptic Package Manager, you could type in iMwheel like that and install it. So anyways, so now that Git is installed, you could type in this fork command, git clone https. And I don't mean to, my intentions were not to do advanced terminal commands or advanced commands in this video because I'm hoping beginners to Linux will watch this video and enjoy it and learn something. And I also hope that people who are still on Windows but are thinking about going to Linux would watch this video. But this is the only way I know how to install the iMwheel to change the scroll speed. So you need the iMwheel configuration file. So I'm trying not to do advanced things in this video, but this I can't help. So I'm going to get the iMwheel configuration file from my GitLab repository. So I'm typing in gitlab.com rdbis1 Mitch Git, and this is going to download a whole bunch of files from my GitLab repository. So that's done. So we've downloaded my GitLab repository. We're going to open the file manager. You could do this in the terminal, but since I'm trying to make this a video that's for beginners to Linux or for people who are still on Windows and are just thinking about moving to Linux, I'm going to use the file manager. But normally I would use the terminal to do this. So when you're in the file manager, any file that has a dot or like a period before it, it's a configuration file and is hidden. So to unhide the files, you're going to right click your mouse. You're going to click on Show Hidden Files. Okay, so those are the hidden files. Let's hide them again. Now they're hidden. Now let's go into my Mensch directory. And we're going to show hidden files. And there it is. There's the iMwheel file. So you want to copy that. You're going to copy it just like you would in Windows. You're going to go home. And you're going to drop it into home. Paste. There it is right there. Now it's in our home directory. We copied it from the Mensch directory. So this directory, we actually, in the terminal, we downloaded it from my GitLab repository up in the cloud somewhere. So we've copied the iMwheel from here into my home directory, and I'm just going to re-hide the files now. Isn't that a lot cleaner? That looks a lot nicer. So I'm going to close this. Now the next thing we want to do to make the iMwheel work is we have to go into settings. And this is probably going to be the strongest or most complicated thing that I'm going to do in this particular video, because I really want this to be a beginner's video. So we're going to go to Startup. And we're going to hit this plus button. And then we're going to click on, just play around here until you get this custom command up. And then we're going to type in a name. iMwheel. And here we're going to type in the command. iMwheel space dash kill. And we're going to type in a comment. Scroll speed. Let's change that. Let's type in mouse scroll speed. Let's add it. And we can see the button is on, and let's close it. So now we're going to log out. Now you don't have to log out to start iMwheel. There's another way you can do it. You can do it in the terminal, but I want this to be an easy video. Video for beginners. Let's type in my password. Let's go back in. And my password didn't work. Why didn't my password work? Let's try again. Guess I didn't hit the keyboard properly. So now iMwheel is activated, and it's always going to be activated when you log in. And what the iMwheel does is it sets the speed. Now you can change the speed by opening up the configuration file. Now, normally I would do this in the terminal. You can open up the configuration file in the terminal and change iMwheel, but I'm going to do it a different way. I'm going to do it the easy way. I'm going to do it the Windows way. and I'm not making fun of anyone or mocking anyone, but because I want this to be a beginner's video, something that people who are thinking about moving to Linux, or for people who are brand new into Linux. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up my file manager. The files are hidden. All the dot files are hidden. So I'm going to right click. I'm going to show hidden files. And I'm going to look for my iron wheel. I'm going to click it on. I'm going to open with, let's open it with Libreoffice. So Libreoffice is the Office suite I have not shown you yet. It's automatically installed in most Linux distributions. And LibreOffice is fantastic. It's free, it's open source, it has a writer, it has a spreadsheet, and it has other programs. It's compatible with Microsoft Office, meaning this. If you have a spreadsheet or a Word document from work that's in Microsoft Office, you'll be able to open it in LibreOffice. And when you're in LibreOffice and you're creating a new file, like a new Word document or a new spreadsheet, you can choose to save it, and I think it's ODS. It's the file format for LibreOffice. You can choose to save it in their own file format, or you can save it when you make a brand new file in LibreOffice, spreadsheet or Word document. You can choose to save it in Microsoft Office format. This is fantastic. So anyways, this is the writer. So what you want to do is you want to change these two numbers here. These two sevens, you want to change them. If the scroll speed is going too fast, then you want to change it to maybe a 6, a 5, or a 4. If it's not fast enough, you might want to change it to an 8, a 9, or a 10. So you got to change these two sevens and then save the file and then close it. Now, once you're out of there, there's two ways to activate it. Once you change the configuration file, you have to activate it, reactivate it. So number one, you could log out of your system, put your password in, and log back in. Or you could go into a terminal and just type in this command, imwheel space -kill. Don't ask me why kill activates it. I have no idea. Okay, so now it's been started. It was killed and it's been restarted. But of course, you can just log out, put your password in, and log back in, and that will activate it under the new configuration file or the changed configuration file. So that's about the most complicated thing I'm going to show you in this video. There's a lot more I could show you, but I don't want this to be an advanced video. Now, another thing we could look at is, let's go to spreadsheet program. This is LibreOffice spreadsheets. Fantastic. It's free. It's open source. It's amazing. And it comes installed by default. You don't have to do anything. All these programs that I'm showing you are installed by default. You don't have to do anything. And anyways, any of these changes I'm making in Linux Mint, you don't have to do them. Like I said, the only thing you have to do is update the system and turn on the firewall. That's it. It works right out of the box. It's amazing. Let's close this. Now, another thing I want to show you is Celluloid. Now, Celluloid is a program that plays videos, but I don't have any videos installed in here, and I wouldn't want to play a video anyways. I don't want to play anything that's, actually, I guess I could have installed one of my own videos. I could do that. I could have done that, but I don't have in this particular VM, I don't have any files in this VM. And by the way, this is a virtual machine of Linux Mint. So, and I'm running on Arch. On this computer hard drive, I have Arch Linux installed. And I have with the awesome window manager. And this is a virtual machine of Linux Mint. So I don't have any music files in here, and I don't have any video files in here. So I guess I should have put at least one music file in and one video file in, but I didn't. So this is a video program that plays videos. Let's close it. You have Rhythm Box installed. This is a music program. It works similar to iTunes. It's fantastic. And again, I don't have any music in here. So on my hard drive, in my main production machine, I have over 3,000 songs on that computer, and they're all in here. They come up on the list. You can do a search by song name. You can do a search by artist, and it'll bring up, so you have a favorite artist that you listen to, and you have 5 of his albums installed. We'll bring it up by album, and you can click the album you want and play the song. It's fantastic. We also have Htop installed. This just tells you what the machine's running on. So I gave this machine 4 processors, 4 gigs of RAM, and the system automatically gave it 4 gigs of swap RAM. The system's been up and running for an hour already. You also have this one here, System Monitor. This is a GNOME application. And you can see I have 4 processors here. This one's showing I'm using a 1.2 gig of RAM out of 3 gig. My swap is I'm using 2.9 megabytes out of 3.8 gigabytes. These are my processors. And of course, right now in this virtual machine, I'm running Linux Mint Debian edition. Now, anything on Debian uses a bit more RAM than systems like Arch Linux or other systems. And also because I'm using the Cinnamon desktop, the Cinnamon desktop uses more RAM than your average window manager would. So it's running less than Windows would, but more than Arch Linux. Main production machine has 16 gigs of RAM and on a fresh boot when nothing's opened. With the awesome window manager, it's using about 250 megabytes of RAM. Anyways, this is System Monitor. And another application that's nice is called Disks. Well, there's 2. So there's Disk Usage Analyzer. This is wonderful. So this virtual machine, I gave it a 40 gig hard drive, but it used up 4 gigs for my swap, and it used up some more gig for the operating system. So this is how much I'm using, and I still got 24 gig available, or 24.9 gig available. You can click this on. Okay, so we can see that in the whole system, this would be including, so we can see we're using 10.9 gig of RAM. That's including the operating system and any files I have installed and software. So that's the operating system, software, and any files. And I don't really have any files in here. I don't have any music or videos in here like I mentioned. So we're using 10 gig of RAM, and you can click on these to see what's in there. So in my main production machine, if you click on one of them, it's going to show videos, and it's going to show how many gigs of RAM I have of videos. I think in my main production machine, I have 11 gig of videos, and probably more than that. And I think I have about 20 gig of music. So it's going to show that. It's going to show how many gig and what it is. But here I don't have anything in here. And then of course you can go into here and look them up as well. Now another thing that is installed here is Disks. This is a wonderful program. It's a GNOME program. And it's showing that my hard drive is 43 gig hard drive. And that's clicked on here. This is my swap drive. This is my device. And what I could do is I'm just going to plug in this USB thumb drive and see what happens. Now this password menu came up because my USB thumb drive is encrypted. And you should be encrypting all your thumb drives. So if you lose it or if somebody steals it, they won't have access to it. That's another story, and I did a video on that. And you can watch that if you want. So before I put the password in, I'm going to change this because I don't want the system to remember my password. So I'm going to say forget password immediately. I'm clicking that on. And I'm going to put my password in. And type the password in. And now it's unencrypted. And it opened my file manager, and we're going to just click on this file. The file was made in Libreoffice, the Word document file, and there it is. Now let's close it. Now, what's interesting is that you could go into disks, click it on, and what you could do is you could go here, you could format the disk. Now, if you do that, make sure you have all your files backed up. Make sure there's nothing on the disk or the drive that you need. And also, before you format, make sure you're on the right drive because you don't want to format your hard drive. So here's my 8 gig thumb drive. Then you can click on this and format it, but I'm not going to do that. You can click on this and that will power off the thumb drive. And because the drive is encrypted, I could click on this and lock it. Now the drive is locked. You say, well, why would you want to lock it? Well, let's say you want to leave the thumb drive in your system plugged in, but you need to be away from your computer. You could lock it. So if someone comes to your computer, they can't have access to it. So I locked it. Now I can unlock it. And now it's going to ask me for the password. And you can even have it show the password. Right? So let's put it in. Password. Now I'm not sure if I typed my password right. So let's show it. Look at my password. Now you know my secret password. Password. But please don't use that. Now, oops. So I did that wrong. Let's do that again. Password. Let's unlock it. So now it's unlocked. Now I'm going to lock it again. So now it's locked. You can also go into your file manager and unlock it. Here's my 8 gig hard drive and it's encrypted. Let's make that. See? 8 gig thumb drive. Yeah, I said hard drive. I meant thumb drive. There's my 8 gig thumb drive and it's encrypted. Let's click it on. It's asking for the password. I want to forget password immediately. Then you're going to type in we're going to type in the password, and this password is password. PASSWORD. And now it's unlocked it. There it is. There's my file. So what I'm going to do is close this. Close this. I'm going to go back into disks. And I'm going to lock it. So I'm going to highlight the 8 gig thumb drive and let's lock it. And I'm going to power off. Now I've powered off. I'm going to close this. Another thing is software sources. You can go into, if you want to change the mirrors where you're updating your system from, you could type in software sources. It's right here. I'm going to go into software sources. They're going to ask for a password. I'm going to make it full screen. And right now I have the main coming from one of the universities that's near where I live. And the other one is coming from the main Debian. You can change these mirrors. Click on that. Pick a mirror from the United States or from Canada. Hit apply and it will apply it. Then the main bullseye, which is Debian, you can click that on too and change the mirror. Highlight it, hit apply, and it will apply it. That's how you change your mirrors. Now, we also have a little calculator here. And I just saw it and it disappeared. Here it is. Here's the calculator. You also have on the welcome screen, if you ever want to get back to the welcome screen, just click on your start menu, type in welcome, and now we're back at the welcome screen. And you can see we're in Linux Mint Debian. You have first steps. You can change the colors, some of your main colors. You can also turn on dark and light. Let's turn on light mode. Now we're on light mode. So if we minimize that, let's call up our calculator and see what it looks like. So now there's our calculator. We're in light mode. You want to go back there and change it back to dark mode. Go here, and we're back on dark mode. And that's about it, I think. A few more things maybe. So let's go into the Software Center. I'm just going to show you a few more things, and I'm going to wrap up this video. So this is some of the software I use. I like Brave Browser. It doesn't come installed by default, but it's here, and it's a flat hub package. You can click it on and install it. It's just another web browser. It has a built-in ad blocker in it, and it also has built-in Tor. Now, if you don't know what Tor is a web browser that you can surf the internet. It hides your IP address, and it goes through 3 different servers. So when you're using Tor, the website you're visiting, they don't know who you are, what country you're coming from, what your name is. They can't read your IP address. And your internet service provider doesn't know where you're going. Now, your internet service provider does know that you're going through a Tor circuit, but they don't know where you're going because it's going through 3 servers before it's landing on the intended website. And so Brave Browser has built Tor built into it, and it also has an ad blocker. Another thing I like to use is pure Tor web browser. So type in Tor-W. Here it is. It's coming from FlatHub. It's the Tor web browser launcher. So this is pure Tor. And again, it's the Tor web browser where you can surf anonymously, going through 3 different servers. Now, the only thing with Tor is that you have to make sure you don't log into your bank account. You don't log into any of your accounts where you can be identified. You don't use your passwords. You don't use anything like that. And you don't do anything illegal. So that's the Tor web browser. Another thing I like to install is Libreoffice. Libreoffice is a fork of Firefox, because Firefox is an open source web browser. So the Libreoffice team, they made a fork of Firefox. And what it is, when you open it, it looks like Firefox, except it has all the bloat out. They take all the bloat out, all those things that come on the main screen of your web browser, they take all that stuff out. And all the settings are, default settings are set for security, for internet security. Everything is set in default, and there's no telemetry. They're not looking at everything where they can be looking at to see what you're doing. It's turned off. So it's fantastic. So I use Libreoffice. Now let's go back. Another thing I like to install is the awesome window manager. So I use Awesome Window Manager as the main window manager I use in my Arch Linux system. It's a lot lighter than the Cinnamon desktop or any other desktop, and you can have it installed here. You can install it. You can log out of your Cinnamon desktop, but stay in Linux Mint. Click on the Awesome and log into Awesome, and you'll be using a lot less RAM. So another thing I'd like to show is how to change your wallpaper. So it's easy, just right click anywhere here. Change desktop background. Click it on. And Linux Mint has a lot of nice wallpapers installed. Click on that one. Let's minimize this. There's a different wallpaper. You have some pretty wallpapers. Let's try that. That's that. They have lots of wallpapers here. Let's try that one. There you go. So that's how you change the wallpapers. And of course, you can download and install any wallpaper you want. And it's easy to install as a background. Now, something else. I'm just going to put it back to the regular default wallpaper. I like a dark theme. And actually, this used to be the default wallpaper. Let's do this one. This used to be the default wallpaper, and I really like it. At the time the first time I downloaded and installed Linux Mint was over 3 years ago, this was the default wallpaper. So some people like to have their icons on the desktop. I don't. I like my desktop to be clean, but it's a matter of preference. So let's say you wanted to install some icons on the desktop. Number one, we'd right click this. You click on Customize. Let's just make this large screen. Desktop Settings. You're going to go right here to Desktop Settings. And right here, show desktop icons on primary monitor only. Well, let's say all monitors. And then what you want to do is you want to click on Computer, Home, Trash, Mounted Drives. Well, let's do Network too. And let's close it now. Let's see what happens. So now we have icons here. We have our home directory here. And I forgot to hide those files. Let's hide those files. Those configuration files. That's better. So next time we click it on, it's going to be like that. Now let's say I want to save some application. And also here, look at, you have your trash can. Let's say I want to save some applications. So let's say I want to save my calculator. Sorry, not my calculator. My spreadsheet application there. What you do is right click it and add to desktop, just like you would in Windows. Click it on. There it is. Want to save Firefox on the desktop? Let's go to Firefox. Add to desktop. There it is. Now I don't want these there. Click on here, Customize. Let's make it large screen. Desktop Settings. And let's click on this one. No desktop icons. Let's minimize it. Let's minimize it, and now they're gone. Let's bring it back up again. Show all desktop icons on all monitors. And now they're back. So once you put them on there, because these ones are by default, I added Firefox and LibreOffice, or LibreOffice spreadsheet. It's called LibreOffice Calc. It's actually the spreadsheet program. So I added the spreadsheet program icon and Firefox onto the desktop. So once you hide them, you can unhide them. It's fantastic. Linux Mint is amazing. So another thing I want to show you in the Software Center is this. It's just going to take a second to open. Let's open it. So on my main production machine, I'm running Arch Linux with the awesome window manager, and I do all my virtual machines in Virt-Manager. And Virt-Manager is kind of tricky to install in vanilla Arch Linux. You have to go through a lot of terminal commands. You have to change some of the configuration files, etc. But in Linux Mint, it's simple. So what you do is go into the search menu, type in Virt See what comes up. There it is here, Virt-Manager. We can see it's coming from the Linux Mint software repository. It's not a flat hub. And you just click it on and install it. And it just works because I have a computer with Linux Mint on it. I have Virt-Manager installed. I'm talking about a real computer, not a virtual machine. And I have Virt-Manager installed, and I'm running a virtual machine of Arch Linux on my Linux Mint computer. So it's fantastic. So I'm not going to install it here because this is a virtual machine. I just wanted to show you that. So that was a brief tour. I hope it wasn't too long of Linux Mint and the changes I like to do after installation. And of course, you don't have to do any of these changes because Linux Mint is great right out of the box. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please like it and don't forget to subscribe to my channel. I am the Linux Mensch.